Hey, how's it going, everyone? Tonight I'm going to do kind of a really newbie-ish guide to your first setup. So this is going to be mostly for people who maybe just went out and bought, like a Volca FM or, a Volca Keys or Volca Modular, who knows, their first hardware, and maybe they're now been playing around with that for a bit, and now they're wanting to look at getting, another device to play with, a drum machine or whatnot, and they're going, how do I play both of them at the same time? Do I need to get a mixer? What type of cables do I need to get? All those very entry level questions I'm going to try to answer as quick as possible. Okay, so let's just use my real world example. I bought a Volca FM, and upon playing with it for a while, I realized, hey, it'd be nice to get a drum machine to go with it, and I was able to pick up a Volca Beats secondhand for relatively cheap, and that was great. But unless I want to play them, through the onboard speaker, how do I get both of these suckers to play through my headphones, go through my board, record, whatnot? That's what we're going to cover quickly here. Now, first and easiest way to connect these two guys and play them out through the same line would be to buy, a headphone splitter, one that would connect into here, one that would connect into the Beats, and then you'd play them out into your headphones or into a recording device, and there you go. Yes, you can do that. I don't recommend it. The only reason I don't recommend it is I'm not an electronics guy, I'm a computer programmer, but what I've read is that technically, if you do that, the splitter will send voltage or some sort of power down through the splitter into the jacks, and the Volca should be protected 99% of the time that it won't cause damage, but technically there is a small possibility that it could fry your Volca. Now, I've not seen anyone mention that. Please post below if that's happened to you, or if I'm being way too paranoid about this. But that is the cheapest option, but there is some risk. Now, let's say you're like me and you're way too risk adverse. You're like, okay, I don't want to do that then. How do I connect these suckers up? Well, in that case, you're going to need a mixer of some type. And this is the Mackie Mix 12. I've made a review on it. You can watch it. This board is fine. It's kind of expensive, $170 Canadian. It's fine, but the only problem I had with it is the phantom power. And I'll turn it on quick here. You're going to hear it. Awful feedback when using phantom power. If you don't know, phantom power is what lets you power a condenser microphone off the board. The only reason you can hear me now is I got a $20 doohickey that does the phantom power to this microphone, not from the board. Getting a bit too deep and off topic, so let's just get back. What are you going to do for your mixer? Well, you're saying, awesome, Volca has a Volca mix. I'll go buy that. I'll stay in this Volca line. I'm good to go. Don't recommend that. Why do I not recommend that? Well, at least in my country, the Volca mix is $220, and it only has 2 mono lines and 1 stereo line. So this guy here was $170. It has onboard FX. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 mono lines and 4 stereo lines. So and so that's why it's called some Mix 12. There's 8 of these guys and 4 up here, 12 inputs, whereas you got to remember the Volca Mix has 4. And the Volca Mix is $220. Why would you do that? Well, it's got an onboard speaker. Who cares? You're not probably going to use that really. The one nice thing that the Volca Mix does have is it has, you can power 3 Volcas off of it. So the Volcas themselves can be powered by batteries. That's how these guys are powered. But they don't come with a AC or a DC adapter. And if you want to buy them, at least in my country, the cheapest way is to buy kind of a daisy chain, and it's going to cost me probably around 60 Canadian dollars to do that. But even still, I could buy this board and that separate power option and be at the same kind of price as the Volca Mix. So for me, it doesn't make sense. It may make sense in some very small, specific use cases. But so you're saying, what type of mixer should I buy? Depends. Now, in my case, I have 4 Volcas and a circuit, and I'll probably, maybe sell a couple Volcas, but I like having the 12 inputs. So I bought a bigger board for that reason, just so I can have that flexibility to be able to drop a lot of stuff into the board at once. If you're only going to be using 1 or 2 instruments, you may want to consider the Behringer or Mackie, the smaller versions of their budget boards, if you don't want to spend a lot of money. If you're looking for something to be a little bit more quality, a little bit more expensive, the Yamaha MG line isn't bad. So for the mixer, I would suggest you buy a separate external mixer like this. Don't buy the Volca mixer, and buy either a bigger Yamaha one to future-proof you, or a smaller Mackie, Behringer, whatnot, for if you just want something to get started with and start plugging things in. Okay, enough about mixers. So you went out, you bought a mixer, you have an FM or you have a keys or whatnot, and you have a Beats or a sample or drum. Anyway, awesome, Nick. I bought my mixer, I got my 2 instruments, let's hook them up together. So you grab your headphone jack and you try and, what that? Okay, so you're almost there. What you're going to need now is you're going to have to buy some cables. And what cable, if you are using Volcas, they don't have 1/4 inch out. Some equipment will be just naturally have 1/4 inch left and right out. The Volcas only have headphone out. So what you're going to have to buy, and I'll post a link down below, is one of these doohickeys. Oh, sorry, I'm all tangled up here, which will happen quickly. Try not. Almost knocked the camera down. Okay, so you can see this is one end of the cable, just your typical kind of headphone jack. I think it's like a 3.5 millimeter jack, and here's the other end, which is left and right 1/4 inch stereo outputs. So what you can do is put the headphone jack into here and put the stereo outputs into the mixer. Make sure there's a level there. Turn on the FM, and so now the FM is playing out of the headphone jack here into this cable, into the mixer, and the mixer is playing out to my phone. Now that's another thing. If you want to record, this is like a 2-year-old Note 8. It's perfect for filming. How I drop the sound in is I got a special cable. It's a TRS, I believe. If I'll write over it if I got that wrong, and I'll post a link down to below. What that does is it lets you use just your typical headphone jack. You'll take that and convert it so it goes into the mic, the headphone jack of the phone, and will record sound relatively decently. So great. Got my FM tied into my board. I'm going to need another one of the cables, exact same cable. Plug it into my Beats. Drop it in here. And there you go. Now I can turn my Beats on. And there you go. And then you can play around with the levels to get it just right how you like. There you go. Awesome. Okay, so the bare minimum, if you're going to want 2 Volcas or 2 pieces of hardware, you're going to need a mixer, cables to connect your instruments into your mixer, and then something to play it out on, either headphones or speaker or whatnot. So there you go. That's the bare minimum. Now you're saying, awesome, that's probably good enough to get you going. A couple little extra things you may want to buy. One that I highly recommend is a MIDI controller, and the one I like and seems to be the popular choice is the Atura key step. Now, why do you want a key step? One, if you want to play your FM or your keys or your modular or whatnot, you got to use this ribbon keyboard. It's fine, but it's kind of nice to have actual physical keys. And what this will do is you connect this to your Volca, And unfortunately, you're going to have to go out and buy another cable. It's called a MIDI cable. It looks like this, and it plugs into here on the Volca, and it'll plug into the back of your key step. And what that's going to let you do on the key step, and I'll post a link to my key step tutorial to show you all the things a key step will do. But just to cover it quickly, it's gonna, now, yes, there's a sequencer on the Volcas, but it's only one bar. With the key step, you have a sequencer on the key step, which can have up to 64 notes, I believe. Oh crap, you know, I'm not going to be able to demo it because I didn't take power up for the key step, so sorry about that. But check out my tutorial on that to get a kind of idea what the key step can do. It can do chords, it has an onboard ARP, and it has an onboard sequencer, which is handy. And most importantly, it's got the physical keys, which are huge too. Highly recommend it if you've bought some of these Volcas. The other nice thing about the key step is, say you were just getting into physical hardware, and then you're looking at, okay, the Volcas kind of are a way to jump into the shallow end of the pool, and then you're like, oh, you know, I actually want to get a really good synthesizer, or a really good sampler. Well, you see it's like $2,000 to $1,000. You may then go on your computer and start looking at a digital audio workstation or virtual instruments. The key step is amazing for playing those on your computer too. So it's going to help you with your physical hardware and also your digital virtual instruments as well. It's universal MIDI controller solution. Highly recommend it if you want to play music. Beyond the key step, the only other thing I will recommend is you may want to consider some cheap guitar pedals. Why? They're a quick way to add some extra effects to the hardware you have. Two that I would recommend for starters is a delay pedal and kind of a metal distortion pedal, which is the holy war here. And I did bring the cables for these. So in order to power these, you're going to have to buy so these are, I think I got them about for $30 each on sale. You don't have to spend a lot of money, and I wouldn't recommend spending a lot of money on them at first. Wait till they're on sale. Buy cheap Chinese ones. They'll give you an idea of the effect, and then, you know, from there you may want to buy some more expensive ones once you learn which effects you like and learn a bit more. But why would you want a delay pedal? Well, it feeds your... It just gives you a bit more depth to what these Volcas can do and your other instruments can do. So if you want to hook one of these into the board, instead of taking this cable and plugging it directly in the board, you're going to want to take... Now these cables are mono, so they don't play stereo, so you're going to lose stereo. I usually plug in the black cable into here, turn it on, and then you're going to have to buy a patch or an instrument cable that kind of looks like this, and you can usually buy a 3-pack. Sorry, too close, and so one of these is going to plug into the out of the pedal, and the other one is going to plug directly into your board. So we'll plug it into 2 up here, and let's see. So the delay is now on, and I got to give 2 some volume. Let's record something here. You can hear the effect, that echoey kind of effect. I'm not going to try to make anything exceptional, but that should do the trick. Alright, so the delay effect is on now. Let's turn the delay effect off. So that's with no delay, no pedal. So let's turn the delay back on. it's just a fun way to add some effects. I recommend, a nice delay pedal, a nice distortion pedal. It's going to get you more, mileage out of these small little Volcas or other instruments. Anyways, 15 minutes, enough blabbing. That's probably enough for a starter. So just to go over it again, if you want to play more than one instrument, you're going to need at the very least a splitter to connect the two into a line. I don't recommend that at the small risk of it actually damaging your equipment. Go and buy a mixer, do a little research and think about your own situation. Are you just going to use two instruments? Are you not planning on buying more? Buy a small mixer with a couple of inputs. Are you just getting started and you plan on buying more instruments and growing? Maybe give yourself a little bit of headroom and buy a bigger board like a Mix 12. And then also consider if you want to spend a little bit of money now or a lot of money for something more future-proof. Look at the Yamaha MG line if you're wanting something a bit more quality, or just cheap out and get one of these cheap Mackeys or Behringers or whatnot for the time being. Also, highly recommend a MIDI controller, and I highly recommend the KeyStep. I'll post links to everything I mentioned in this video below, and also to some of my tutorials if you want some more in depth about any of this stuff. Also, hit me up down below if you have any questions, and I'll happy to answer them as I can. And also, if I've screwed anything up, do let me know so I don't lead anyone astray. Alright guys, cut it off there. Have a great night. Thanks.